So, welcome back guys to another video, and about a year ago I talked about my top 5 favorite Castlevanias of all time, and the Castlevania series is my favorite series of all time. I absolutely love it, but there are some games in this series I'm not a fan of, and I thought with the Castlevania Anniversary Collection coming out and the spiritual successor from Igarashi, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, coming out in June, I would talk about 5 Castlevanias that I hate. Now, number 5, I don't actually hate it per se, and that's why it's kind of in the bottom of the list, but I feel like this game came out the wrong time, wrong place, and that is Castlevania Legends on the original Game Boy. Now, the thing about this game is it came out in '98. By the time this game came out, we were already playing, the Game Boy Color. The Game Boy Advance was just right over the horizon, and it's very, very bare bones. I would say it's almost more primitive than Castlevania Adventure or Belmont's Revenge on the original Game Boy. Something about it. The story itself is really good. It actually follows the first female Belmont, Sonia Belmont, and she even has a love interest with Alucard, which is really interesting. But the game sold very poorly. Despite all the hype of Symphony of the Night, it did not sell too well, and it was so bad that even Igarashi took it out of the canon, so it's no longer a part of the Igarashi timeline. And number 4 is a Castlevania arcade game called Haunted Castle. Now, I understand the premises of arcade games are there to take your quarters. I mean, and this game does that. It is so difficult. Something about this game just did not click with me compared to some others that I've talked to in the past. I don't know what it is, but Simon Belmont in this game, he normally walks slow, but in this one he walks like he's got a full diaper of something. He's just walking very slow, and the enemies are super fast. And I mean, I know that arcade games are there to steal your quarters. I understand that, but this game is just really not that great. The soundtrack's awesome. Soundtrack's actually really, really good. And if you are curious about this game, you can get it on the Konami Collection that just came out for the PS4, Nintendo Switch, and Xbox One. You can also emulate it, and they also have it on the previous generation as well. So check it out at your own risk. Number 3 is Castlevania Harmony of Despair, and I kind of have a vendetta against this game because I got this game around the same time I got my Xbox 360. I was really experiencing the online gaming experience, and I hear about this Castlevania online game, and I'm like, this is actually kind of cool. And I remember I went to GameStop. I rode the bus and went to GameStop and got a points card because that's back when they had the points, and I bought the game, and I was really disappointed. The servers, at the time I was playing, the servers were not that great. So I couldn't really play online a whole lot with my friends. So I tried to play a lot of single player stuff, and it was really no story. It was pretty much just a dungeon loot session. And the thing that I didn't like about it is if you were playing with someone and they went too far away, the castle would really pan out and your sprites would be so small. It would just be so frustrating. So for what it was, I could see what they were doing and it was really interesting, but I just did not like Harmony of Despair at all. And number 2, you guys know I love fighting games. I'm a big fighting game fan. I'm a huge Castlevania fan. So when I heard of Castlevania Judgment coming out on the Wii, color me intrigued. I thought it was kind of interesting that it was coming out for the Nintendo Wii console. I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. I was kind of wishing it would come out for something else because I was like, I don't really want to use the Wii mode on that, but you can use the GameCube controller. And I finally got a Wii and I picked up the game, and I was very disappointed because it just did not live up to the hype. For one, the art style. I'm a big anime fan, but I felt like the art style was so removed from Castlevania. I felt like it was a little too modernized with what was popular at the time with anime. I felt like it just looked really weird, and they added a lot of sense of humor because there were a lot of story modes that you could go through stages and campaigns, and some of it was just completely just really off the wall.
They're huge.
And in that regard, I felt like a lot of it was not Castlevania. It was more of a fighting game fan service game than a Castlevania fighting game. And I really hate the fact that this game did not come out as well as I was hoping, but it is what it is. And my number 1 Castlevania that I hate is Castlevania Lords of Shadows 2. Now, the thing about it is I'm probably in the minority in the fact that I enjoyed Castlevania Lords of Shadows. I enjoyed what Mercury Steam was trying to do with this series. They even had Kojima help producing it, and it took a lot of elements from modern games that I remember playing and saying, hey, I would like to see this in a Castlevania, you know, like God of War and Shadow of the Colossus, and they added their own little soft reboot to the whole lore of Castlevania. So beating that and seeing what was over the horizon in the much anticipated sequel, I was very disappointed, because I understand that Gabriel Belmont, I'm not going to spoil anything, but Gabriel Belmont is a very important figure in the Lord of Shadows series, not just as the hero, but much, much more. And, you know, that he can go from the past to modern day in Lords of Shadows, and I felt like some of that was kind of lost. I felt a lot of times I was playing more of a Batman Arkham City Castlevania mod than a Castlevania game. I mean, there were things that they shoehorned that was so popular at the time with modern gaming that it lost that Castlevania, where Lords of Shadows, the first one, it branched out, but it kept the Castlevania spirit, where this one just didn't whatsoever. And I remember I didn't even finish it. I remember I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was just playing it, and I was really, really excited to play it, and I was really enjoying the first like 30 minutes or so. And I was like, man, you got to get this game. And they got the game, and I regret, you know, telling them to get it, because I played a little bit later on, and I'm like, this game's really bad. It's really not good. But yeah. Well, guys, those are my top 5 Castlevanias that I hate. Now, what are some Castlevanias that you didn't really particularly care for? Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you guys. And as always, guys, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and as always, happy gaming.